Hey there everyone, and how are you guys doing tonight? This is Joe Martin here with Mobile Cup of Joe's What's Brewing, our weekly Hangouts on Air live show that we do every Friday at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonight we do have a bit of a smaller crew. Tonight is just myself and the spec sheet Tony, and back from the dead Fred. Alvie Rodgers, our bearded barista, is out with work plans, and Ones and Zeros Chuck Haines is getting sick, and at least that's the stories they're telling us, or they're just ditching us. We're not entirely sure. But it is just me, Tony, and Fred for tonight. But it's still going to be an awesome show. We have a huge Google Doc laid out, and I think this is the most organized our show notes have been in quite some time. So we have a big show planned tonight. We got all the news going down with net neutrality and the FCC, everything that's been going on with that. We're going to try to make sense of it all and see what the future of the internet does hold. We've got stories about soft card and some Android Pay rumors. We have some leaks about the HTC M9. Apparently, we've got feature phones are going to make a comeback, so I guess in the future, my Samsung Array is going to be more popular than my Moto X, so not sure if that's going to happen, but we do have some discussion about that and a lot more going on throughout the night. Before we get too far into our freshly brewed news, though, a couple quick show notes. If you do have a question at any point throughout the show, the Q&A is open if you're watching on Google+, so go ahead, drop your question in there, and we will answer it live. And if you're watching it live too, but don't want to watch it on Google+, go ahead on any of the socials. That can be Twitter, Facebook, even Google+, too. Just use the hashtag MCOJBrew with your question, and if we do see it, we'll go ahead and check all the socials throughout the show and answer it live if we do find it. And also, if you're watching the show later on, either listen it to on the podcast for the audio version, or watching the video on the YouTube channel sometime after this does air, go ahead and still submit your questions using the hashtag MCOJBrew, which has been our hashtag ever since we started this, and we'll go ahead and answer them on next week's show. So I think that just about covers all of our shameless plugs throughout the night. So go ahead and let Fred kind of kick us off with our freshly brewed news. Before we get too far into it, though, today was the unfortunate passing of Leonard Nimoy, who's most popular for his role as Spock in the Star Trek series. So, Fred, if you just want to kind of go ahead and lead us in with that and just kind of talk about that for a second.
Yes, today the world learned of the passing of Leonard Nimoy, and although he had many pursuits in the course of his life and career, he was a poet, he was a photographer, he was a musician, and did actually a fair amount of so-called serious acting in drama and so forth. To most of us, he's known as Mr. Spock from the original Star Trek, the Vulcan, and I understand that he struggled with that sort of typecasting through much of the remainder of his career after the original couple of seasons of Star Trek had passed, but certainly that's what most of the geek world and most of world culture knows Leonard Nimoy as being, and for many of us who grew up, I myself as a child of the '60s, he was right there for us with our for our entry into science fiction and futurism and so forth, and we love Mr. Spock and we love Leonard Nimoy, and wherever you are, Mr. Nimoy, live long and prosper.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that's a bit of sad news to find out someone that's kind of affected pop culture and just really the world so much in general to pass like that. But go ahead and leading on to that, we do have a lot of news regarding net neutrality and the FCC. So basically, I'll let Fred go ahead and lead us off with the story. But essentially, what kind of happened? There's a big ruling with the FCC, and essentially the internet is now under a Class 2 or Title 2 registration, where it's essentially kind of acts like a utility. So Fred, go ahead and just jump into that. What is going on with this FCC, and kind of where is the future of the internet standing right now?
So, well, the future of the internet is probably not resolved as easily as yesterday's FCC ruling, but it certainly is a landmark ruling. The FCC voted, this was yesterday if I'm not mistaken, to enforce net neutrality. And for those who have not been following the story, net neutrality is a set of rules to prevent what are known as fast lanes on the internet. Basically, that prevents internet providers, and that includes cellular carriers, from either throttling, blocking traffic, or giving priority to any particular traffic based on where it's coming from, and in particular based on payment. So nobody can buy a faster lane on the internet at this point. Nobody can prevent applications, rival products, and so forth from running on their networks. And basically what's happened here is that it has, as Joe said, effectively classified the internet as a Title II carrier. It puts it in the same class as telephone service and mobile voice service, and even some other commodities, I think, like oil and gas and utilities go under Title II. Basically what it means is that now these are under government control. They basically can't be discriminatory. There's no fast lane for people who pay more. There's no slow second-rate service for people that don't have the money. And this is such a landmark ruling that it even prompted Chuck Haines, who couldn't be with us tonight, to comment that the government finally got something right. So on that note, let me pass it off to you guys and get some impressions from you guys, Tony and Joe.
I know for you can go ahead, Tony.
Oh no, go ahead.
I would say for me personally, I mean, I don't want to make this a political debate, but I've never been one for a lot of government control within our daily activities and our daily lives. But I think that having this regulated as kind of like a mobile phone or cell service or something like that is kind of the right direction we need to go, because this is a huge win for net neutrality as a whole. Because I remember when I was first hearing about net neutrality, the first time I really heard it brought up, it was kind of the issue where I think it was Netflix and Verizon were at it, where Netflix was using a bunch of bandwidth on Comcast or Verizon's end, I believe, and Verizon or Netflix wasn't paying up Verizon for this extra bandwidth they were using. So essentially, if you had Verizon Fios, I believe, and you're trying to stream Netflix, your speeds would be dramatically slowed down. And having something like that really doesn't make any sense at all, and it really does make the internet and completely takes away any equality from it. So yes, it is under government control now, but this is going to prevent anything like that, like Fred was saying, from fast lanes or anything like that to happen. So having it completely, at least equal for the time being, like we still have a bit of time to go to see how this pans out. But I think for the time being, this is probably the best thing that could have happened. And I'm never one to agree with the Democrats too much, but I do have to give a tip of the hat to them, because I think they really did make the right decision when it came to this. Because if this didn't pass, I mean, if net neutrality did not win and we saw those votes turned around where this didn't pass for the FCC, I mean, we could be looking at a very scary place for the internet. If fast lanes and stuff like that could continue to be a thing and can be legal, then that would be a very terrifying thing. And it's, I think, something that if it did pass, the internet would dramatically change, and it's really not something that's fun to think about. So I'm thrilled with what was ruled at this hearing the other day, and just have to see where it goes from there. But for the time being, yeah, it's a bit of a win for the internet and equality and such like that.
I know that one thing that sticks out in my mind is that, you know, there's a lot of Republican talking heads who are no doubt on someone's payroll, because honestly, I don't see how any politicians have any personal stock in this at all and would care about it, you know, one way or another. Somebody was commenting that this is, was it someone said something like, this is how the internet dies, with a round of applause or something like that, and it was just, I cannot believe it, because what they're basically saying is that if you have enough money to buy a car that is much, much faster than all the other cars on the road, you should either A, have private roads that you can drive as fast as you want on, or B, be able to drive as fast as you want, and other people just have to pull over and let you go if you have that car. It's like, that's not okay. There are certain situations that I genuinely believe, yes, if you can afford something better, you should get that better thing, and it's not, you know, it's not an issue of, you know, there's no human right that said everybody should have to have the same quality of life. Everyone should have to have the same. If you can afford better things, you deserve those better things a lot of times. And if you can't afford those things, work hard, you know, do what you can, and you can get those things. But this is not one of those cases. This is one of those things where the internet is going to be a commodity well, commodity is not the right word, but the internet is going to be such a basic in the future going to be such a basic. Not even need isn't even the right word, but just such a basic thing to have access to that it would be like saying, it just like I said. I mean, I can't think of a better metaphor than the cars. But you should not be able to pay for a fast lane. You should not be able to have, some kind of preference just because your two companies have worked that out beforehand, and your internet service provider should definitely not have any say in what you go or where you go or how fast you get there, other than the package that you purchased already. I don't know if this will affect the cable speeds that we already buy. Like I'm on a 50 down, 5 up plan. I don't know if that will affect the way that those are done. But in general, and one of the other things that they said, one of the other things that was ruled on was that the government now will not be able to get in your business and decide where you go on your online. That was the really bigger thing in my mind, is that we avoided becoming China. If they had made a ruling that said that the government could get on, and basically block websites from the internet in the U.S., that's a horrible, horrible thing. Because there's a lot of trouble you can get into online. I mean, from as bad as you can imagine, down to as simple as being arrested for threatening someone's life for terror, in a game. But anybody can go in and get in that trouble. But the same thing with your basic freedoms. Anybody can walk down the street and threaten somebody's life, and you know what? You're going to get arrested because you decided to do something stupid. But they don't start closing off streets and imposing a curfew just because somebody threatened someone else, and that is a danger. It's not the government's job to make sure we don't get into trouble. It's the government's job to punish people who do get into trouble and make other people not want to.
Right. Now, this isn't even though the ruling did go down, I mean, this isn't something that's just gonna it's a close the books, we're done with this. I mean, Comcast and Verizon are up in arms about this. This is gonna keep going on. We're probably gonna see this debate and this battle go on between the providers like Comcast and whatnot against this. So I mean, I was even reading a couple articles today that a lot of people believe this could even go as high as the Supreme Court in the next few coming years. So I mean, right now as it does stand, it is a good win, but this isn't something that we're going to be done with and put it in the record books, and net neutrality is good forever. Hopefully net neutrality does stay a thing and it stays secure, but Comcast and Verizon and AT&T, they're not going to just sit idly by. They're going to try to get what they set out to achieve. So I mean, it's good we have this kind of safeguard for right now, but it will be interesting to see what these internet providers do in the future to kind of combat this and see if they really get anywhere with Wheeler's decision on that.
Well, and the most annoying thing, in my opinion, about the Verizon in the media with this is they fired off that just scathing letter about the net neutrality decision. And in my opinion, what you just said to all of your informed customers were, no, we don't care about what you think that should happen. We want our money. And that's basically you said our money, our bottom line is more important than any of our customers who want this net neutrality. It's okay, if you're gonna fight it, but don't send off some not sarcastic, but some letter typed in a typewriter font to say that this is an outdated decision, and then act like, oh well, but we have our customers' best interests at heart. No, you don't. You want more money, and that's why you wanted this decision to be made the way it was. And your PR department sucks. No offense to the guys that we talk to, but the corporate PR that made those decisions to put together that letter and fire it off are awful, and they should all be fired. Because there is no reason to show the. I mean, yeah, companies always care about the bottom line, and that's going to be their main concern because all of them want jobs, they want bonuses, they want raises, and that's important. I want that stuff for myself too and my family, but at the same time, you cannot do things which fly in the face of your customers' freedom, and that are going to directly fly in the face of what almost all of your informed customers would want. You can't. I mean, that'd be like the Catholic hospital coming out and saying, "Never mind, we just made a decision in our, amongst ourselves that we're going to allow abortions." First of all, half the people that work at your hospitals are going to quit, and almost all of the Catholic people who visit your hospitals aren't going to visit there anymore. It's you can't do this. You can't come out and say something that's completely against what your customers want and act like it's okay. It's like you just showed your true colors, and not that they've ever hidden them, but.
Well, now Verizon would, of course, say that it's an outdated, antiquated decision because there was an earlier decision in favor of net neutrality, which Verizon took to court and basically got overturned. Now, interestingly, some of the comments that I've seen floating around in blog space thanked Verizon for today's decision, because the comment here was because they won that case back in 2010, or after the FCC ruling in 2010, it basically pushed the issue this time to for the FCC to put out somewhat stricter rules than they came out with 5 years ago. In the earlier decision in 2010, they kind of took a soft stance on Verizon's wireless subsidiary and mobile networks as well. And this time, the rules are being applied both to fixed terrestrial, if you will, broadband, as well as mobile broadband. You know, another point here, and again, with no offense to our friends at these carriers, it's interesting to notice, if you want to see where things fall, and as I always say, follow the money here. The voices that really came out against were Verizon, AT&T, and Comcast. And interestingly, Sprint and T-Mobile did not object to this and do not feel that it's going to hurt their business. But of course, they stand to gain by being able to use other companies' networks. And again, this is something that there'll be less restriction to. And I just want to add, if I can, that we don't want to forget that there are two sides to Internet equality. I mean, two aspects of Internet equality. One is that Tony's analogy of being able to afford the faster car, that a rich person should not have more access to information, and that's really what we're talking about here. There are certain things that I think most reasonable thinking people think that regardless of our free market economy, everybody has the right to certain things, and information should be one of those. Which seems to be fairly universally accepted here. The poor person should have as much access to information and intelligent information and ability to educate themselves and inform themselves. But the other side here, if you can hold that thought for a moment, the other side here is that Internet equality and net neutrality also applies to people who are putting out the information and people who are putting out programs, and the carriers can now cannot restrict the flow of certain information. Verizon cannot restrict Netflix any longer. No one will be able to restrict Google's apps or anyone's apps from running on their network at this point, and it basically keeps everything, forces everything to stay on more of a level playing field on all accounts.
And the thing that's really, you know, where my analogy was off base was that in this decision, it wouldn't really be poor people versus rich people, people who can pay for it and people who can't, because in this scenario, the people who are going to squash our home internet connections that would really have ended up harshly affecting us aren't other people, because nobody on their own personal income would be able to afford anything that could rival, you know, that one of these big companies could pay these providers for the fast lanes, you know, and on the one hand, some things do need to get precedence, and they've even said that certain things are going to get precedence that are not, you know, they're not governed by this Title II thing. But on the other hand, you know, should we be subject to how much money a company has? Because if it was just us, okay, I can't afford fast internet, so I have slow internet. That's a thing, and that's going to be a thing because we're, at least as far as I know, internet speeds, purchasing a different speed from your company is going to continue being a thing as much as it is now. But it's should you have to fight for that same bandwidth from a company? Like, say there's, you know, a Netflix if there was a Netflix something or other here, or no, it wasn't Netflix, but anyway, say there was somebody around me, using basically the same hubs that I'm using, who paid for a fast lane, they're going to step all over my connection, and I'm going to get really crappy connection because their servers are going to be running at top speed all the time, and I'm going to be second tier, and I'm going to have second priority. So what that's preventing is you won't be stepped on by companies. It'd be like a factory moving in near you and saying, okay, everybody, you got to put up with it. And there's no local vote for it. They never ask the people, is it okay if we build a factory here? We're just going to start smogging your air.
I know. Well, House of Cards Season 3 just came out, so as long as my Netflix and bandwidth are all secure with that, I'm good to go. But yeah, so I know we could talk about net neutrality all day long, but I mean, it's there's so many different ways to go about it, and like Tony was saying, of course paying different prices. At the end of the day, Netflix, Verizon, AT&T, all these companies, at the end of the day, their main goal is to make money. So of course they wanted this ruling to go in the other direction. But I mean, if you're we were saying earlier, if you're compromising your own users freedoms to the bandwidth and the access they're getting for different prices they're paying, I mean, it gets to be a bit of a murky situation. And yeah, so me being though out in the boondocks, and I've got some company called Internet 2000, I'm pretty sure I don't have to worry about this for a while. So there's one slight pro to living out where you've got some off-brand internet provider. But so yeah, do you guys have any closing thoughts for net neutrality, or you think you got all the FCC debating in you for the night?
I think my closing thought would just be that congratulations to everybody. I know I was one of the people who sent letters, who sent a letter saying that it should be classified as a Title II common carrier, and I'd just like to, especially, I'm pretty sure that everyone watching our show, either live or listening to the podcast later or watching us on YouTube later, I'm pretty sure you guys can all agree we have a huge win to look at. Yes. For the internet, and we'll definitely be reaping the fruits of this for years to come. And I'm excited to see what happens now. I'm just excited.
I don't think the battle is over, but at least there's a precedent in place that will be used as a legal precedent when these things come up and invariably go to court again.
The little crib sheet's got a free internet to look forward to.
Hopefully.
All right, well, going on to a bit of a lighter topic, we've got quite a few smaller stories to go through after our whole net neutrality talk. We do have a story coming in about more mobile payment stuff, which we always seem to talk about every show, at least one mobile payment story. We have some news about Google and purchase of soft cards. So, Tony, go ahead and fill us in with what's going on with that story.
Well, I have to apologize that I'm not that informed on it, but I have been looking over two of the Android Police articles, and they did a pretty good job of covering it from two aspects. And one aspect being that Google has purchased SoftCard, or partnered with SoftCard, but I think we all know what that means. And they will be the new wallet technology will be preloaded on T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon. I think up until now it's only been preloaded on Verizon for most phones that can support it, and maybe AT&T on certain Samsung phones, but I don't think any other carriers. So they have purchased SoftCard, and that's good news because that was their main. I don't want to say. It wasn't. They weren't really competing because the market just isn't there yet to compete. But that was the only, other than Apple Pay, that was the only other player in the game. So now it's going to be Android and Apple Pay, which is really nice because that means that everybody will be able to use it, and there won't really be any competition other than the existing Android versus iPhone. So the other one is that Google is preparing to launch Android Pay, and we know that buying SoftCard was definitely in preparation for preparing to launch Android Pay, and we will get much more information about this at Google I/O this year. They'll be releasing the APIs and the development kits involved with that at I/O this year, and making those available to developers. So definitely very exciting news there. Very, very exciting for any of us Nexus users who have used Google Wallet in the past and never understood why it never made it onto other phones. Hopefully we'll be seeing, Samsung phones and HTC phones and any phone with an NFC card come preloaded with this, just like they are preloaded with the Google Play Store. That would be fantastic, because if we could get more people into it, if we could get more people using it, then we won't see things like that announcement we saw, or that issue we saw a couple of months ago, where it was like something like 110 retailers all shut down their NFC point of sale systems in preparation for something that the retailers would be able to control, so that they could save on credit card fees, because there are still transaction fees when you use tap to pay. Maybe there's something Google can do about that. I don't know. Hopefully there is, because I would like to be able to see this become a ubiquitous thing in the future, where you can just go anywhere and not have to take your actual cards with you. That would be fantastic. I know it's kind of dangerous to consolidate everything into one device, but at the same time, as long as that one device is secure, it doesn't really matter.
Well, we do have a bit of wearable news coming up now. The Pebble was teasing all week, or a couple weeks ago, that they had a big announcement coming up for a new smartwatch. They had a countdown timer going on their website, and then I think it was this Tuesday, I believe, they made the announcement for the Pebble Time, and I'll go ahead and screen share what this does look like. It's been getting a bit of mixed thoughts back and forth as to whether or not this is a solid upgrade to the Pebble Steel, which was the last smartwatch that Pebble did come out with. And you can see right there that the Kickstarter funding is just refreshed and is going up as I'm talking. But Pebble actually launched the Pebble Time on Kickstarter. So if you go to Pebble's website, there's just a link to go to their Kickstarter page right here. This has been up for about 3 days now, and you can see right there this already, or if you're listening to the podcast, right now there's currently 51,646 backers with $11,327,737, with the original goal of 500,000, with 27
almost
days
11
to
million
go.
over goal.
So yeah, that's ridiculous. I believe this is already the second most funded project here on Kickstarter. So Pebble originally knocked out of the park with the original Pebble on Kickstarter a couple years ago, and they're already pretty much doing the same thing with the Pebble Time. So just kind of a quick rundown of what the watch actually is, in case you aren't, if you are listening to the podcast. It has a stainless steel frame with a color e-paper display. So there is a rather hefty border around the watch itself, but it is constructed out of stainless steel, so you at least have a more premium housing than you did on the original Pebble. And then you do have the e-paper display and a colored back with, it looks like a silicone watch band. Now, personally, when I first saw this announcement, I wasn't too geeked on it because it looked honestly really ugly to me when I first saw it. But then I did watch, I think The Verge, or I might have done a video of an interview with the Pebble's CEO, and the animations and everything for the Pebble Time are gorgeous, because what Pebble actually did, they went through and completely redesigned the operating system for the Pebble Time. So if you used a Pebble before, either the original Pebble or the Pebble Steel, you know that you'd kind of just have your watch face, and if you get a notification in, you could just kind of see it right there and then dismiss it, and then if you, in the later Pebble updates, you could go into your menu and there'd be kind of like a little notification section where you could go through and see any notifications that came in through the day. But with this new timeline thing, though, Pebble is kind of making essentially a timeline of any notifications you get through the day. So you can go through there and it sections them all, so you can see if you've got, emails that have come in, or calendar updates, or weather things. And if you're watching the show right now, there's actually a little GIF or GIF. I don't know. I don't care how to say. I'm not going to get into
GIF.
that right now. GIF. But you can see right now that the guy is going through the timeline, and there's animations all throughout it. And the way Pebble has it structured up is that when you press the middle button, it shows you kind of your present notifications, and then if you press the top button, it'll show you past notifications, and then the bottom button will take you to kind of maybe future notifications if you have maybe like plans for a movie coming up or different things like that. And then there's also a new app menu in it, and really it looks like it's definitely not going for style. So I mean, compare this thing to my Moto 360. This is obviously designed to be more stylish and look like a normal timepiece. The Pebble Time, although the bezels are huge on it, I'm really okay with the way it looks because it's not trying to match or beat this style of a Moto 360. It's aiming to be more of like a playful watch, kind of like the original Pebble was. Now, if you go and watch a video of, I'll try to put a link in the description below after we do host the show, of the video that The Verge did, because I'm not the biggest Verge fan, but it's a really good talk with kind of the head designers behind the Pebble Time, because the way they structure the new operating system and the way the animations, just how fluid they are on an e-paper display, I was really impressed by it. And I think the watch is going to start going for $199 when it does come out, hopefully in a couple months or so. If you were lucky enough to pre-order and back it on Kickstarter, you could get it for about $159. So $200 is going to look like the starting price point for this watch when it does come to be actually official product and shipped out when their Kickstarter funding campaign is done with. So do you guys have any thoughts on it? Because I know, like I said, when it was first announced, I wasn't so keen on it. But the more I read about it, the more I look into it, I could actually see this as being a pretty solid smartwatch for someone that's just kind of starting to get into that whole smartwatch game.
I know that within 33 minutes of posting the campaign, it hit its $500,000 goal, and then doubled that before an hour. So 49 minutes, it was over 1 million in pledges, and then on Wednesday, it was at 9.1 million. So I mean, and that Wednesday was what Wednesday, so it's been 3 days now. So Wednesday was been what, a full day, so one full day up, and it had already gone to 9.1 million, and people are pretty sure that there was a big outage on Kickstarter, and they're pretty sure it was due to the new Pebble campaign. So very interesting. I think it's interesting that they continually garner this much funding, which it could just be one of those things where people found a company they like, and I'm sure the Pebble watches are great, and they just want to throw all their money at this company, and that's great. The thing I don't understand is that I don't think that any of the Pebbles look good. I think the original Pebble and this newest Pebble Time look like toys for kids. I would not wear one. I don't think I think that they look like they're designed for children or for teenagers. But definitely, I like to look nice and dress up, and saying look nice kind of sounds judgy there, but I do. I like to have things that look like they're high quality, and it looks like a toy to me. And then even looking back now that I have a Moto 360, I really did like the Pebble Steel and the way it looked when it came out, but that was in comparison to all of the other available smartwatches, which basically all looked at least as dorky, if not more, than the original Casio wrist calculator. So the Pebble Steel did look good when it came out, but now looking back, it's like, yeah, it's just like all the other older smartwatches. So I'm glad to see the company's doing well, and I can't wait to see what comes from them in the future. But I feel like as far as design goes, it's still something that's not for me.
I was thinking exactly that of those early Casio, not yet that smart watches, which I had one. It was a gift for my folks, and it was a fairly powerful tool at the time, the ability to set alarms and store your contacts and so forth. But I hated wearing the device. It was just a cheap plastic toy watch. And we've seen a lot nicer in Android wear.
Yeah, I think the big thing for the Pebble, anyways, is that this thing is supposedly it's still gonna have 7 days of battery life, or so a week right there. So if those claims can keep up, I think people that maybe, because I had two, like I had the original Pebble, I had the Pebble Steel because I didn't like the design of the original Pebble at the time, and the Pebble Steel was the best looking smartwatch at the time, so I want to get that. And then when Android Wear came out, I got the Gear Live. Hated the design of that, so I got the Moto 360 because I like to have stuff that looks stylish. Because I try to dress nicer, not tonight obviously, but I do like having something that looks nice on my wrist. But I think for people that just want something that's practical, that's going to get them their notifications, that's going to last a week, they don't have to worry about charging every night, which is something you pretty much have to do with all Android Wear devices right now. And something that just is maybe more casual if they're maybe active and go running a lot, something that's going to be durable. I think this is still going to be a really solid product, and since I've owned the original Pebble and the Pebble Steel, I'm at least going to maybe try to get a review unit of the Pebble Time, because I love the company. I think I commend them a lot for trying to stay in the game, and it's really encouraging to see them get all this funding, because we have Google with Android Wear, and you have Apple with the Apple Watch coming out, I believe, this coming month in March. So it is awesome to see a startup still able to compete with the two biggest names in technology. So even just for just being a startup company, it's really awesome to see them still, like you said, get all that support and see people still have a lot of enthusiasm for what this company and what they are standing behind with these products.
I know
So
that.
going on, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I just my last thought is I know that I was one of those people who thought I would never wear Google Glass or anything because I think it should be seamless. I think it shouldn't be something that sticks out to you. It should be something that fits and doesn't make people look at you funny. And I thought that sport watches in bright colors I thought that they always look silly, and I did look at people who wore them funny. Because I'm a dress watch kind of guy. I don't even really like to wear something that doesn't have a metal band. I always want the metal band on my watch. But I'm not active. I don't ride bikes, very often. I don't really do much that, the metal band gets in the way of. But I think I would sooner wear a head-mounted display than any of the Pebbles.
Well, the Epson Mobirio, we want to wear those around town.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of quick Verizon stories you can knock up here in a couple minutes. The first one, I'll go ahead and kick it off. We've got the Moto E was announced, so I'll go ahead and, for our live viewers, I apologize for the podcast viewers once again. But essentially, the new Moto E that was announced, essentially just kind of imagine the first generation Moto E, because that's pretty much the same design we have here, except for the larger 4.5-inch display. Motorola announced this Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, one of the days of the week. I'm not keeping track of my days that well right now. But the phone is now going for $149, which I believe the original Moto E went for $129 unlocked. But $150 for an unlocked phone is still one of the best prices for a high-quality phone like this. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be high-end, because this is more focused for people that just are starting to get in the smartphone game, really don't play a lot of games on their phone, use a few of the bare essential applications, and for calling and texting and taking some pictures here and there. But the phone does look really nice, and you've got some decent specification improvements. 4.5-inch display, we are still looking at a QHD display with a lowercase q, meaning it is 960 by 540, but that's still bringing in 245 pixels per inch, so still pretty good there. 1 gigabyte of RAM, 8 gigs of internal storage, but you do have an included micro SD card to expand this up to 32 gigs, which is very awesome to see, especially for a cheaper phone like this. Camera, it is 5 megapixels. Oh, you've got that, and you've got the flick of the wrist like you have on the Moto X, where you can flick your wrist a couple times to open up the camera application. They have added a front-facing camera, which was missing on the first generation Moto E, but it is VGA quality. So your selfies may look a bit grainy on there, but it is included, which is always nice to have. And then again, 3G or 4G LTE options with Android 5.0 Lollipop, and the phone is even reportedly to be available on Verizon Wireless. So, it's not like a phone that we're going to be buying and, playing the latest games and running the latest applications on, but this is probably one of the best phones you can get right now for the pricing. And $149 for an unlocked phone of this caliber is honestly one of the best deals you can get in the market right now. So if you know someone that's looking to get a smartphone, or maybe an older person who wants to kind of upgrade their basic phone, maybe from a Samsung array like I have here, $150 for Android Lollipop, Motorola, for their exceptional design. I mean, pretty much all their products, Motorola has been in this game pretty much since the beginning. So, I've always been a fan of Motorola as a company, so I'm really excited to see this. I'm going to be recommending this to a lot of people who want kind of a bare essential smartphone, but still has something that's high quality, because you see far too often ZTE and Huawei who have phones that are similarly priced, but they're absolute crap to use. So hopefully we can get more people to see the Moto E and spend the same amount of money and get a decent phone for what they're looking to get into. So, what show is that? That's Parks and Rec. Alright. I have to go watch that on Netflix later now. So Tony, what's this other quick Verizon little tidbit we got right here?
Let's see. Nexus 6 coming to Verizon March 12th with voice over LTE and 5.1. Here is the interesting thing, and it's something that's been of much discussion in our little group chat, because we do have, I'm a Nexus 6 user myself, and we also have Chuck Haines, who is a Nexus 6 user on Verizon, and he was too impatient to wait for it, and God bless him for that. and bought it from Motorola instead of waiting for Verizon to release their own. So it sounds like what Verizon has really been waiting for is the Android 5.1 update, which could possibly have the 5.1 update could be the issue, could fix the issue with voice over LTE, because currently with I think the Moto X, I know the Droid Turbo just got a fix update for it, but it's several other Motorola phones, and then the Nexus 6, which have been purchased through the Play Store or through Motorola. If you're activating it on Verizon, you will only have either voice or LTE data. You cannot do both at the same time, which is something that, well, first of all, GSM users have never had to deal with. But they're back into basically the realm of 3G problems with the Motorola smartphones on Verizon. So it's kind of wise of them, especially with the Nexus 6 being what it is, being the killer whale, the iPhone killer whale, can we call it that? Being the killer whale of phones, and being the really first Android phone which can rival in every way, build quality, specs. I would say in the user experience, but I'm heavily leaning towards Android in every category over iPhone. But it can rival the iPhone for everything, and will appeal to those high-end tech geeks who may have wanted the iPhone just because it was the high-end gadget to have. So very, very smart of them to wait until it's fully compatible with the network to release it. Still, it's annoying to us fanboys who see how carriers muck up the releases of things, albeit software or hardware. But I am glad that they're going to have it, support it, and have it working perfectly the first time, hopefully. So we'll see. And we'll see if the carrier branding is as bad as we've seen, the memes we've seen online with the pre-burnt-in Verizon symbols and whatnot. But very, very exciting news that Verizon has a firm release date for the Nexus 6. I think the thing I'm most interested to see is if they have as much of an issue with supply and demand as T-Mobile and the Play Store have had.
Yeah, well, it's still, like you said, still cool to see Verizon get this. I'm just hoping, though, that the updates and such go better than we saw with the Galaxy Nexus when that came out, because that was talking about a train wrecker of updates and stuff. That's probably one of the worst situations for a Nexus product we saw. So hopefully Verizon learns something from that and can actually get updates out on time for a Nexus device, since that's kind of one of the bigger reasons to buy a Nexus product, to get the updates as soon as they come out.
I rooted my Galaxy rooted my Galaxy Nexus early on in the process and started running alternative ROMs. But that's while it may be popular among followers of this show, that's certainly not for everybody out there.
All right. Well, I think we're gonna go ahead and do an espresso shot. If we have a couple remaining news stories. If we have time after that, we'll go ahead and jump into those. But just gonna do a quick change of pace for the show real quick before we overload you with news topics right now. Like I said, we'll jump back to those in a bit if we have some time, if you guys still are feeling up for talking about a couple remaining stories. But today I do have an espresso shot, which is our review we try to do every week here on the show of a product that I get into review. And I was hoping to do this last week, but then because of the weather conditions here, it was delayed until the Monday following last week's show. But I do have it here with me. It is the HTC Desire Eye on AT&T. Now, I'll go ahead and just kind of go through some software and design aspects of the phone. To kick it off real quick, the design of this thing is surprisingly nice. I wasn't really sure what to expect with the phone. It came out kind of late 2014 in Q4, but I was just able to get it into review because, January, February are always slower months for new products, so I figured I'd kind of go through the backlog and catch up on some devices that we did miss in 2014. So I got this thing out of the box, and you can see right now, it's white on the front and white on the back, but it actually kind of has a dual-tone design right here. So the entire frame or border along the side of it is red, because most phones, you've got the front color, the back color, and then the side is usually black or matches the front panel of the display. So it's really cool to see kind of a dual color design. We really don't see that in hardly any phones here. So it's a very small addition, but it does make the phone pop out a bit more, especially if you're holding it from the side like this, to have that kind of splash of color right there. and then have a stark white on the front. So it sounds like a small thing, but it's actually a really, really nice looking. In terms of the design, my kind of complaints with it are the buttons themselves, and I know this always sounds like a really nitpicky thing, but the buttons are very, very flush with the side of it. So if you go to press it, I often find myself having to like really look to see where the buttons are. And there is a dedicated camera capture button right here. But from what I've been able to tell, it's pretty useless. I mean, you really have to like mash down on it to open up the camera application. So it's nice to have it, but I just would have wished these were maybe a bit more tactile and a bit more responsive. And now holding the phone itself, you do have rounded corners, which is nice, but the back is completely flat. So I've been used to my Moto X, which has that nice gentle sloping curve on the back, which rests nicely in the hand. So going back to something that is completely flat, it does feel kind of awkward to hold in the hand at times, and it is a very slippery device because it is a polycarbonate plastic. It's still very nice. It feels very sturdy, but just coming from something that does have kind of a gently curved back, having just a complete flat flat slab on the back does take a bit of getting used to. Going through it, you do have a Snapdragon 801 processor on here, 2.3 gigahertz quad core, 2 gigabytes of RAM. Moving throughout the phone feels very nice. You have HTC 6 on here with Android 4.4 KitKat. And the whole phone feels very nice. I was playing the Marble Champions game on here, which is a very graphically intense game on the phone processor and GPU. And everything ran very smoothly. I've never had any problems with performance or lag on here. And HTC Sense is always just a very, very snappy skin for Android. It's very smooth. I never have any issues with it. So performance-wise, it kind of functions like a flagship phone because this phone, when it came out, people were kind of confused. Is this a kind of a mid-range phone or is it a flagship phone? Because it's kind of, imagine maybe an HTC One M8, but maybe in a plastic casing with an insane front-facing camera, which I'll get into in just a second. So design is pretty solid. Performance is really nice as well. One of my issues I have been having with it is with battery life. I took this thing out with me, I think it was Thursday this week, and I turned it on at about, I don't know, 8 o'clock in the morning, and then put on airplane mode for a couple hours when I had to go to my tech center for my programming class. Came back out, took it off airplane mode, and it was at a full charge in mind when I did turn it on 8 o'clock. But I took it off airplane mode about 10 o'clock, and then I went to Kalamazoo, a bit of ways from me, went to a new restaurant with my friend. So I had Google Maps going on. I had the Bluetooth on connected to the stereo in my car. So I did have a Bluetooth connection going on. I had Google Maps going. I had Spotify playing in the background for a couple hours. And so I did have a lot of stuff going in the background. I played some games on it, was taking pictures. But the phone actually completely died on me at about 6:30, 7 o'clock that evening. So that's not super solid battery life, and that wasn't really with a lot of screen on time at all. I don't need to know the exact stats because HTC's battery history is kind of screwed up right now on mine anyways. So I would like to see increased battery life on there. Again, it's not the most expensive phone, so I wasn't really expecting too much out of it, but it would be nice to get through a full day. Granted, I was kind of using it a bit heavily with the Bluetooth connection and streaming and navigation, but so far I haven't been crazy impressed with it. I'm going to take it out again tomorrow and Sunday as my daily driver to really test it out on the street a lot more. But first impressions with battery anyways has not been super great. Now going on to probably, I know, the really big aspect for the phone and really why it has its name. There are dual 13 megapixel cameras on this phone. So you've got the kind of traditional 13 megapixel camera on the back with LED flash, but on the front of the phone you can see right there, you have a second 13 megapixel, essentially a selfie camera with a dual tone LED flash. This thing is actually really awesome because if you're talking about front-facing cameras, most of the time they're either 1.5 megapixels or 2.1 or 2 megapixels. So having something that's 13 megapixels is pretty awesome. The detail there is really nice, and actually something that's not talked about too much for camera sensors on phones. The field of view and how wide the angle is pretty solid. I'll go ahead and take a selfie reel here. I'm sorry for this, but I'll go ahead and just kind of show you that flash is bright. That's a very attractive picture. But you can see right there that you can actually get a pretty solid distance out when you are using it. So yeah, Fred's giving us a thumbs up. Selfie awards, I'll go ahead and take my prize money right now for the best selfie of 2015. But it is actually really nice if you're trying to fit in a lot of people for a group picture. Just hold it out at the length of your arm and you can really fit in a good distance of what you are trying to shoot with it. And having a dual tone LED flash too does kind of help out with getting your face complexion and all that fun stuff right. And you do have all the same effects for the filters and whatnot that you have with a rear camera on the front camera as well. And even the rear camera too, I've been pretty impressed with how strong performing this thing has been so far. Really excited for the HTC M9. It's actually going to have supposedly a 20 megapixel camera and get away from the ultra pixel thing. Because the 13 megapixel sensor that HTC used here on the Desire Eye, I've been pretty impressed with it so far. I've taken some pictures outside, and I've really been actually pleasantly surprised with how nice they have been turning out. The phone right now is going for $14.97 with AT&T Next for their 24-month plan. $69.99 with a new 2-year contract, and $448.99 unlocked. The phone came out, like I said, later in 2014. But if you are a big selfie taker, and I hate to kind of make that a category of people to purchase smartphones, but selfies and front-facing cameras are absolutely huge right now. Again, we've had this conversation before with selfie sticks and belfie sticks. But this is honestly the best phone you can get, or the best camera you can get for a front-facing shooter. And also on top of that, we got a solid rear-facing camera, snappy processor, a really attractive design. I mean, it did surprise me, just how much this phone really does stand out from the black slabs that are on the market right now. Having a splash of color here and there really does make the phone pop. And really something that's just fun to carry around. It's fun to have, not many people have a 13 megapixel camera on the front of their phone. So if you're with friends or going out, having something like that does make it a very kind of fun phone to have. For $448 unlocked, I don't know if I'd go ahead and throw that money down, but if you are on AT&T, $70 with a new 2-year contract, or about $15 with AT&T Next, is a pretty solid way to go. 4G LTE on here, obviously. It comes with 16 gigs of internal storage, but you can actually expand that with a micro SD card. So if you're looking for something, you're kind of maybe a big photo buff, you like taking the selfies, you like taking regular pictures with the rear-facing camera, want something that's snappy, that has an attractive design. Honestly, from what I've been able to tell so far, aside from the weaker battery performance, this is a pretty solid phone to go with. And we do of course have the HTC event at Barcelona and MWC coming up very soon. So maybe go ahead and wait and see what HTC does announce then. But if you're looking for a phone right now and you do have a big priority for your cameras, this is a pretty solid little device. And I've been pleasantly surprised with it because I really wasn't sure what to expect from it. So it has been nice to kind of see it perform so well like it has been. So I'll go ahead and stop talking for just a second to see if you guys have any questions for it.
I know that one thing that's exciting about that phone for me is that, or the idea of a phone with an camera that's as good on the front as it is on the back, is that if you're recording video and you're doing the recording like many of us YouTubers do, now you can just record with the front and always be able to see yourself, and you can be looking at yourself. Like, I know if I'm recording video on my computer with my webcam, which I do occasionally, I always find myself and I look like this because I'm staring at myself instead of staring at the camera, which I should be staring at. So you'll be able to have that feed for yourself, which most if not all video cameras have that flippable LCD. So it's a feature that's coming to cell phones now. That's been in real video cameras for a long time, and definitely deserved.
Right, like I said, what's nice about it too is that you have because most of the time if we have the front-facing camera on a phone, the options and the filters and all the editing effects you have with a rear-facing camera are generally taken away from the front-facing camera experience. But you can see right there, you've got all the filters and all the effects and whatnot you want that you do have with the rear-facing camera. And, even for vlogging or something like that, that's pretty popular with YouTubers, like Tony was saying. Just having something that's high quality, that has that wide of an angle of a lens, the possibilities you can do with 2 cameras on the phone that are pretty much identical from what I've been able to tell so far. It really does open up the possibilities of different shots you can take, different videos, styles you can take, and I tend to make fun of people my age, and I know with the whole selfie trend that's going on, it does get kind of annoying. But even if you're just taking a picture of yourself, or like a group picture, or just really anything, possibilities, like I said, with having such a high-end camera or having 2 high-end sensors on a phone. What you can do with that is pretty impressive, and I know if there's photo bugs out there, photographers, yes, it is kind of a middle of the road smartphone. That is something we really haven't seen on a phone in the U.S. Aside from that, so there's a lot of it's kind of an exciting phone. It's kind of a different phone. It's always fun to get something in that's a little more unconventional from the rest of the stuff that is out on the market. So go ahead and I think Fred's got a couple quick freshly brewed news stories he's gonna jump on real quick before we get out of here for the night.
Yeah, we got a couple.
So
Sorry.
yeah,
Yeah, a
yeah. So
couple more little tidbits from the news here. For those of you who have had an interest in Android Wear but don't live in the Android universe, so to speak, in other words, if you're working with if you're an iPhone user who is interested in Android Wear, maybe not ready to wait for Apple Wear, Apple Watch to come out. Someone has finally gotten Android Wear to talk to an iPhone. It's a developer named Mohammed AG. There's not too much out there, but he put out an 11-second video that shows his Android watch, which is a Moto 360, basically talking to his iPhone. What you see in this 11-second video is a notification flash on his iPhone, and the same notification a moment later flashing across the Moto 360. So it's not much. It's credible because this is a guy who has built a number of exposed modules. So he's got some street cred in the development community. And basically, what he's told everyone is that he used ANSC, which is Apple Notification Service Center APIs to make things work. And this would have been a nice segue coming out of the Pebble story, because apparently this is the same way that Pebble manages to talk to iPhones. So just a little bit of a taste of what's going on out there. It was not. Well, I should say this guy was working with a jailbroken iPhone, but apparently the connection did not require any features of jailbroken. It could have worked off of a stock iPhone. It looks like his Android Wear is a little funky, because what he's got going on there doesn't look like standard Moto 360 fare. But in any event, it's nice to see that Android Wear is that open of a platform that it has been able to speak to iOS. And one more little story that I just want to touch on, again, as a tease of things to come, is that some researchers in the UK at the University of Surrey have been playing around with 5G mobile connections. And it's been expected that we were going to see in the tens or maybe even hundreds of gigabits of speed, but these guys have accomplished a 1 terabit connection, 1 terabit per second connection, which is thousands of times faster than the best 4G connections that people are able to get now. So we're looking at future stuff for certain 5G networks are probably something like about 5 years away. But speed is tremendous. Efficiency, and they say cost efficiency, will be tremendous, better than anything we've seen before. And to put this in perspective for those who don't feel like doing the calculations, at 1 terabit per second speed, that allows download of 10 full-length movies in less than a second. So we're talking about astounding speeds that nobody really has ever experienced yet.
because you're talking about like 1 terabyte, I mean, or terabit speed. That's pretty much like what Google Fiber is too. So you're talking like fiber optic cable speed. So it's kind of it's hard to wrap your brain around having like that much speed or data speed in like your pocket with your phone. So yeah, I'll sign up for that whenever the time comes. I'm ready for terabit download and upload speeds on my phone. I know that drastically increase, if I could set it up as a mobile hotspot, that'd really increase the speed we'll be able to get Mobile Cup of Joe videos uploaded to the channel. So yeah, thanks for those last couple stories to round out our freshly brewed news and round out this episode of What's Brewing for the night. So go ahead and go through our shameless plugs for the show, then I'll go ahead and catch up and see what the rest of the crew does have coming up this week. So if you do have any more questions for us, we didn't get any questions in tonight. It was a bit of a slower night. But if you do have any questions after you do watch the show, if you're listening on the podcast, go ahead and use the hashtag MCOJBrew. Send in your question, and we will get to it on next week's show. If you like this video, go. Nope, that's the normal video phrase. I gotta get in Alvie's mindset, not do my normal outro phrase for the standalone videos. But go ahead and go like us on Facebook. We do have a Facebook page now, facebook.com/Mobile Cup of Joe. And we are on Google Plus as well. We're plus Mobile Cup of Joe. I'm on Twitter at Mobile Cup of Joe, and I'm on Snapchat too. I know I'm the only one in the group here tonight that's on it, but go ahead and add me, Joe Marin. I do post frequently about new devices I'm getting into review for Mobile Cup of Joe and different updates of shows when we do for what's brewing. When we are going live, and little teases of stuff to come up. So that's about all the plugs I can think of for the night anyways, so go ahead and go left to right. Fred Scholl, the Back from the Dead Fred, what's going on with you, and what do you have coming up this next week?
Hey, well, life and work mostly, but a couple of new things just arrived here. I got a what I think is going to prove to be a wonderful pair of headphones from A Audio. I reviewed their Elite HD headphones, which in fact I'm wearing and have been my staple fare since I reviewed them back last summer or early fall. And they've got a new item now, which is a wireless Bluetooth over-the-ear headphone, which looks to be of comparable quality to these wonderful Elite HDs. So have not unboxed them yet. That should be some excitement for over the weekend and into the next week. And other than that, I guess since we're doing shameless plugs, I missed a couple of weeks because I was playing some solo guitar and vocal performances in Tribeca, Lower Manhattan, in a real nice club called the L Room. And good to be back here, and I will certainly be back at the L Room in weeks to come. So those of you who are in the New York City area, stop in Thursdays, Friday nights when they've got live music over there.
You gotta catch Fred before he gets too popular and goes on his worldwide tour. So go ahead and spec sheet, Tony. What's going on with you this next week coming up here, going into March?
Well, a lot, not a lot. Let's see. I just sent out another email to the guys at Raycon Jet to see about. They said Q1, so of this year. It had been pushed back a couple times. So hopefully by some good weather, I'll have a Raycon Jet headset to test out outside. I've been still been messing with those little nano drones. I had to return a second one in the row for the same issue, same motor failed. And now, Ben Chun bought the same one that I suggested, the Nano drone, and it looks like he's having the same issue possibly. I had a video call with him earlier. It looks like one of his motors is failing. So I sincerely hope that doesn't happen to yours, Joe. And I still have an orange one that's going strong and isn't exhibiting any issues. But to be fair, I did kill 2 of them in a row, so maybe the third is just the charm for me. I don't know. We'll see. But if it does fail again, then I'll just say goodbye to that brand and I won't buy any more UDIs. But as for right now, I know people will probably see me posting about these little UDI U839 drones. Hold off on purchasing them for at least another week till I can say that I just happened to get two bad ones in a row. We'll see. Oh, and I am very excited. I saw another one which is under $100, and it looks like it can actually carry a GoPro. So under $100 and can carry a GoPro. That would be, after this season, would be a very interesting thing. If I enjoy flying this one around with the attached 2-megapixel camera, and willing to invest money in purchasing a GoPro. So maybe next year or something, but. Still very exciting to see that there's one coming out on the cheap that has the ability to carry a decent camera. So excited about that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. $100 for GoPro. That'd be definitely some sweet possibilities for camera angles and whatnot. But yeah, talk about drones for me going on. I got 2 of my drones in. One of them actually the Nano UDI. I haven't had any issues with mine so far, but it has been crashed into the ceilings and walls and everything because I'm a horrible drone pilot right now. But it has been holding up surprisingly well. I've been kind of terrorizing the cats around the house with it. They're really not sure what to think about it. So they're not sure if they should catch it if it's a toy or if it's some bug flying around the house. So that's been entertaining to fly that around with them. And then I also bought the Sima or the Sima something, I don't know.
Sima.
the bigger drone that Tony had on here a couple weeks ago with the 2 megapixel camera on it. And I've been really anxious to fly that around, but there's not a lot of room in a farmhouse in Michigan, and the weather outside is less than desirable to go outside and fly a drone with. So hopefully the snow melts away and the temperatures warm up a bit soon, so I can go ahead and fly that thing around. For me though, anyways, actually yesterday I was in a hangout with Paul Ulrich and a few other tech bloggers, even Jordan Keys, from XDA TV. We were all in a hangout and some different bloggers from the Midwest area talked about wearable technology. It's about a 30 or 40 minute hangout we got on. That was a lot of fun. Just talked about Google Glass. We talked, maybe not Google Glass. We talked about the Epson Movirio goggles that Tony had to review. We talked about the Apple Watch. We talked about fitness trackers, the Garmin Vivo Fit. So I'll go ahead and add a link as well in the description below for this video if you guys want to go ahead and check that out. Lots of good conversation going on there. For me this week though, I am a junior in high school, so I have the ACTs coming up this Tuesday. So I had like a 6.5 hour lecture today at my technology center going over how to take the test, different strategies and tips and tricks. So my brain is pretty much shot for the night, so I apologize that that translated into my hosting capabilities for the night. But I'm going to pretty much be spending this weekend gearing up for the ACT, hopefully getting a good score on that. And then I also have reviews working on for the HTC Desire Eye. I still have the Lenovo Yoga Tablet 210 with Windows, and I should have the Samsung Note Edge coming in fairly soon, and the Garmin Vivo Fit I have to review too, along with the Bose SoundLink Mini. So I'm pretty busy for the time being with products and whatnot, so I shouldn't have any excuses for not working and making videos and nothing but videos for the next couple of weeks. So that's going to do it for my week, and that's going to about do it for us here tonight on What's Brewing. So thank you all to everyone who tuned in. Thank you to everyone, too, if you're watching this later on YouTube or listening to the podcast. And we'll be back next week at our normal time at Friday at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great night.